Good morning, everyone. I am Chaitra Vedalapalli here. I'm so excited to having all of you. So first is I want to make sure that you can see us. So in the chat box, say hello to everyone today. Say hello. Hello, Priyanka. Excellent. That means we are able to communicate with each other. Brilliant, brilliant. This is how a community works. I love it. So first is welcome everyone. We are here and there's a question I want to get started before we kick off everything. First is what is keeping you excited these days? I know we are doing everything virtual. And second, what unexpected situations have you observed in the last 2 months? Go ahead and share that because it'll help all our speakers to get comfortable and they can relate to you. Okay, so let me talk about it. What's keeping me excited? Keeping me excited that I can still be connected to my community with the technology. So that for me is very, very important and it's happening. The unexpected situation is that I have observed is if I have to go to India to see my parents, I cannot do it. So it's kind of bothering me that my access to see my parents has been stopped. And so that is something I'm noodling all the time, how to figure out a way to get there if I need to. So, and then I'm cooking a lot and I'm getting to read a lot of books. So it's been really good. Awesome. Okay, so let's get started. So I want to still go ahead and introduce myself. I am the co-founder and president of Women in Cloud and also Mela. And I run 2 companies, but today I will be coming here as a Women in Cloud executive to help really put this event together. So what I would love to do is, first, I want to really thank all our sponsors and our community members, especially the Microsoft startup who actually partnered with us to make this possible. And then the Microsoft developer relationships who came in. And also loud shout out to AirMeet. This is a new technology, very new, and they have come together to really create an intimate setting for us to get connected. And there are 2 women who I have to acknowledge. One is Piali Day, as well as Riza and Mia Nugent. Without them, we couldn't have this possible. This is the master experience that they have created for all of you. And the entire Women in Cloud community, lots of love for all of you for being here and making this possible. This event was supposed to be only 50 people. Look at we have crossed over 200 people to be part of together. So a couple of things I want you to do today is first engage, ask a lot of questions, make your digital breakfast experience memorable. It's really for you, so make it experience. Put in everything, be engaged. Second, on your screen, there is a cheer capability. So that's where you're going to use your smiley face, claps, and heart icon. So I want all of us to go ahead and give me a big cheer for our speakers today. Come on, let's give it a try. Let's do it. So keep doing that one because it's important. This is how we will communicate with each other and feel like we are connected. Third is connect during the social lounge. And it is a lounge experience where you could get connected to the female founders as well as all the business leader. The attendee community that who is here today is phenomenal. So you want to meet and we will create a lot of intimate experience. And the last one, which I'm going to ask you is share on the social media using the hashtag female founder breakfast of Women in Cloud or SheSoars, because today we have 2 amazing speakers who are going to help us soar together and create an amazing experience. Okay, let's get to the next slide. So everyone keeps asking, why does Women in Cloud exist? But let me give you a little bit, because most of you are new here, is we have a challenge because we are in lower single digit, and having women represented less than 3% in the channel programs. Second, we have less than 2% of the women who have access to cloud opportunities, and less than 2% of women who have access to investment. And the one which is very depressing is less than 1% of women tech entrepreneurs are awarded corporate contracts. This was the reason where a group of women came together and said, what if we create is $1 billion in economic opportunity for women tech entrepreneurs in partnering with corporation as well as public sector. That was the genesis of creating Women in Cloud as an initiative in the market. Raisa, can you move the slides if possible? Perfect. So as we talked about, is really the intention was to create jobs, bring in the diverse solution developed by women, and really at the end of the day, uplift our entire society. So what does Women in Cloud do? If most of you have a question in your mind, it's really a community-led economic development initiative, really taking action to generate over $1 billion in net new global opportunities for women entrepreneurs through partnership with corporation and community leaders and policymakers. We have core 3 pillars. We focus on how like a lot of things is around community. We provide access to a network of people through events, programs, and online network. We have a Microsoft Cloud Accelerator, really an immersive readiness programming to win enterprise opportunities. And the third one is focused on public policy work with the legislators to remove language bias in contracting practices and unlock the existing procurement vehicle so it's not at 1%. We can get at least at closer to 40%. That would be our intention. And we want to do it by 2030, very aligned with the UN goals. So when you think about the programming, we have year-long offering, so you can engage with us through the whole year. We have an annual summit, which is a celebration event. We really bring the community together to take action. We have an accelerator. If you're an entrepreneur, I would highly, highly recommend you to consider being part of the accelerator. And a lot of our accelerator cohort members are here today, so please meet with them in the social lounge. We have the Executive Connect highly curated experience with entrepreneurs and thought leaders. We do a lot of awareness campaign around the economic development and gender equity, participate. We have pitch challenges and the industry event inclusion that we bring together. So be part of that experience. If you like it, give me some hearts and some claps. Come on, give that one, because we as a collective community can make this possible for all women across the globe, okay? Let's get to the next slide. So when you think about our network, it is lots of collaboration, and collectively we believe is we help everyone go higher. Let's lift all the boats together. And that is the intention of the Women in Cloud. Very inclusive. It's not just women, it's everyone who is focused on creating economic access. So there are a couple of announcements I want you to say. We have a digital pitch challenge coming up on August 21st. We just finished last week the first digital pitch. So the second one is on August 31st. If you are interested to be part of the pitch, you should consider being, registering yourself and applying for the pitch challenge. Please do it. If your solution is ready for enterprise, you should be pitching in front of your potential customers and partners. The second one is we also have is our accelerator, which is coming. Okay, hold on for a second. Yep. So we have the accelerator, which will kick off on August 26th. We are taking registrations for that. And if you are going to meet with some of the accelerator cohorts, members have conversation around, should you consider being part of it? Because it's a very tight cohort of members who are working together to become successful and create a change in the world we want to see. And the last one is we have an Enterprise Connect, a very highly curated experience that's coming in July, where you get to meet with thought leaders, Microsoft executive, and you get to meet your enterprise buyers. If you want to be part of it, let us know, follow up, and keep track of what's happening. And we will be bringing is a female tech breakfast, very similar to what we have created. It will be available again in July, so please join that. And when you think about the Enterprise Connect, I want to really highlight, because if you're trying to sell to an enterprise, you really have to increase your face time with your buyers and executive. That was a very high requirement, and that is what we are trying to curate. Earlier, when it was a FaceTime, in person, very easy. When we are trying to do digitally, it is hard. So we want all of you to help us to create that, because this does not exist for women in a way on scale. So we want to make that possible. We want to help promote your cloud solution to your potential buyers, and also share best practices on how the digital transformation is happening in the enterprise market in the midst of COVID. So that is what you could hear. So with that, I would love you to invite all of you to join our community, and you will see the link in the general chats. So make sure you join and be part and be connected. So with that, that was my thing. I want all of you to really, really get excited for our experience today. So here is the agenda. The topic is fantastic, and I would really give it to Shaloo and Denise, who will be taking the stage now. It takes two to tango. I completely agree. And how female founders and corporate create joint success. And I want you to hear and engage with them. Once they finish their panel conversation, we'll take a break and we'll go into a networking session at a social lounge. It'll be 15 minutes, and I'll give you what you need to do there. And then you have is an audience Q&A. I want you to have a conversation with the panel speaker, and we'll do a closing remarks, and then we will get started. So with that, I would love to invite today Shaloo Garg. I know her for last 15 years. We were at Oracle together. Now she's the managing director at Microsoft for Startups, based out of Silicon Valley, and she is a global lead for the Microsoft Social Entrepreneurship Program. My ask of you is you have to meet her. If you have not, find a way to get to be on her table. And she brings a combination of strong startup, enterprise, strategic partnership, and corporate development experience. Previously, Shaloo was also a partner at Global Oracle Innovation, where she led the corporate innovation practice for commercializing revenue opportunities for startup into an enterprise client base and partner ecosystem. She also has led go-to-market for Oracle Cloud Business, as well as she was part of the M&A team that acquired PeopleSoft, Siebel, and Retech. And I was with her doing that whole acquisition play. So you can ask us a lot of the scars that we had to go through to understand how this acquisition happens. Now, prior to joining Oracle, she was also part of a couple of early stage startups, and she's really passionate about tech for good, and is also president at the UN Women Silicon Valley, where she's spinning up virtual innovation labs with universities leveraging emerging technologies to encourage digital literacy in developing countries for young girls who do not have access to education. And she strongly believes that the technology can be best used to power to impact the UN goals. And she's also a guest speaker at Penn Law School. She has done her MBA with Delhi University and has done specialization in innovation and design thinking at Stanford Business School. So her words that she lives by in life, there are no mistakes, only lesson, by Vic Johnson. And with that, Shaloo, I am really excited to have you here today. Welcome to the Female Passion.
Chaitra, that was a stellar opening. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I have to say, as Chaitra said, I have known her for almost 15, 16 years. We worked together, and I still remember that hallway conversation where we would say that, hey, we got to do something together. Like we got to do, we got to work together. But here we are. And I'm really excited, Chaitra. Thank you for the opportunity. So before I get into my introduction, which Chaitra has anyway covered, I firstly want to thank Women in Cloud for doing a stellar job in putting this community together. I mean, I've watched you guys grow in the last couple of years. You phenomenal. You have a fan club there. I also want to thank Piali Day. She is the North America AI Plus Cloud Developer Relations at Microsoft. She's the muscle at Microsoft who pulled this together. And of course, there's Riza, there's the entire Women in Cloud team. So firstly, gratitude. Thank you so much for doing this. As Chaitra said, I won't get too much into my background, but I'm part of the Microsoft for Startups team based here in sunny San Francisco. It's a beautiful day out here. Personally, I've been extremely passionate about female founders, and it was a journey. Like everything else in life, you come across things and you suddenly realize that it's your calling. I've been in the startup business for a very long time. And I have worked on different spectrums like commercializations of startup into enterprise customers. I have always looked at female founders and underrepresented founders and figured out a way, like how do they get a seat at the table? So let's just put it this way, that whatever is the most challenging is what I'm gravitated towards. And I am so excited to have one of the most awesome women that I've met in my life. I mean, her journey is phenomenal. I can't wait for you to listen to her story and what she has to share. So with that, Denise, I'm going to call you on. You're on mute. I'm going to set you up here, but Denise is the CEO and founder of RevWork, formerly Lead Inclusively. I'm going to give you a little bit of flavor of how I met her, and then we're going to get into the conversation here. So Denise and I actually, Denise reached out to me last year during summer, and we went back and forth multiple times, and she was like, I really want to work with you. Like, I think we need to do something together. Like, there's some energy here. We got to make magic happen. And so that was a journey in the last 1 year. We're going to get into details there. But Denise, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here.
Yeah, well, we talked about the opportunity to talk about your journey and, the success that you've had in the last 1 year. I am so proud of you. Just to level set with the audience, I would love for you to just introduce yourself.
Absolutely. First of all, Shaloo, thank you so much for the opportunity. There are no words to express how grateful I am to know you and also to have been accepted into Microsoft for Startups. That gravitas has taken us a long way. But for the purposes of the people who don't know me, I'll start with a little bit of my background. I have a degree in organizational and behavioral psychology from Columbia University, and then I went on to become a lawyer. So I am the attorney that litigated and won the first class action under the Americans with Disabilities Act, way back when. I have always been fascinated by the differences in people, which is what led me to develop a cross-cultural firm that I scaled to 65 countries and sold to Ernst & Young. That was exciting. That was without technology, by the way, or very limited technology, I will say. And then I founded Lead Inclusively with the idea that it was time to not only scale inclusion, but to be able to figure out a way to sustain inclusion. So that is the beginning of my journey in tech, because to do that, we had to translate the behaviors associated with inclusion and the whole concept of the neuroscience of behavior change and habit formation to technology, which is not as easy as it sounds. A long story short, we did develop an app that is meant to embed and sustain inclusion for enterprise. And that app was so successful that our founding client, that is the 5th largest bank in the nation, said, why can't we do this with all of our leadership behaviors? So that's all an entrepreneur has to hear, right? Because then I realized we're not just a consulting firm with technology. We were a technology firm that could produce a platform that could produce behavior change apps that could change any behavior, which is where we are now. So that's why we reemerged as RevWork. We now are using that platform enterprise-wide for behaviors such as innovation, for the behaviors necessary to return to the new normal, in terms of remote teams, leading remote teams, and the like. And I guess that's what got us admitted to Microsoft for Startups too.
Yeah, I still remember that conversation. So Denise, every time I meet a founder, I'm just intrigued by their personal journey. I'm a firm believer that whichever point in life you're at, professionally, there is some connection of your personal life into your professional life, and I'm a firm believer of that. That just, as they say, curiosity kills the cat. So I'm always curious to find out. I remember asking you this question, Denise, tell me, about your personal journey. What led you to be an entrepreneur? I would love for you to share that before we get into the conversation here.
Absolutely. Well, I will say my dad is an entrepreneur. So he grew up in the Depression, and he was bound and determined to be successful. So he was a solo attorney practitioner, his whole life. And he had this never say die attitude that I think rubbed off on me, because as you know, that's the number one characteristic of entrepreneurial success is no matter what wall you hit, you better learn how to move around it. And I would sometimes literally do that in my sleep, go to sleep at night and come up with the solution. I'm sure many of you on this call have had that experience. So I think that's the key foundational, part of it. I will say this though, I think you're right. I think every entrepreneur has a story, but every female entrepreneur has kind of a double story, right? Because dealing with all these nuances that, sorry for you men out there, that most of you are not dealing with. So we're dealing with being the primary caregiver. We're dealing with being disenfranchised, not just in corporate America, but just, in general. And I will tell you this, when I was building my first business, I was in the middle of a divorce. Talk about a bad time. But in a sense, it's the reason why I had to build a business, because I was an attorney and I was not admitted to practice law in the state where we were living. And I had no choice but to reinvent myself. And the argument that was being made to the court was she could be a legal secretary or a paralegal. And the argument that the judge was considering it was, well, she's not really working that hard. She's, this is a sham website, because I had nothing to show for my work, right? I was working 24/7 and nothing to show for it. So maybe that was a reasonable assumption. But the reality is that it's always a race against time, particularly in technology. But for any entrepreneur, you're either succeeding or you're failing. It's that simple. So everything is moving fast, 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 because you want to fail fast for sure and move on to success. And if you don't, you will die. So behind the scenes, I'm raising 2 kids, soccer practice, and trying to get other moms to carpool, and having kids who I'm sure had mixed feelings about what the heck is their mom doing anyway, and all of these other nuances associated with trying to do it all with an ego that was pretty much, my ego was pretty much around, am I a good mom? And am I a good professional? And realizing that maybe I can't be perfect at both. So there isn't one person on this call, I don't think, who hasn't had something similar. But I think it's worth noting that for those of us who are female entrepreneurs, you better want it badly. And I sure did.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that. As I said, every time I speak to a founder, there's always a story. Denise, you're a survivor, class A survivor, right? Let me ask you this. You're in a tough industry. I think, Chaitra touched on it. I am not going into the monotony of the state of female founders out in the ecosystem there globally. Let me ask you this. The buck does not stop with funding, right? We know that. What if I give you a check of $50 million and I'll say, Denise, go have fun, build your company, right? What else is needed beyond funding? As a female founder, what do you think are the top 2 to 3 things that you need to survive? Even when you don't receive funding? I mean, there are creative ways, but I want to hear your perspective as a founder.
Well, first of all, let me just acknowledge that having investment to do it right is so much more fun than bootstrapping. I mean, I can actually do it right now, which is over the top exciting. So I don't want to minimize that factor, but you are absolutely right. So I can give you a couple of key things in my opinion, in my humble opinion. And the first one does have to do with humility. You have to know what you don't know and not be afraid of that, and reach out and surround yourself with the talent that makes up for any of your deficits. There's nobody that has it all. There are female founders who have zero technology background and have to, be brought up, scraping and climbing to get that done, because they have a phenomenal idea and a great business sense. And so what? Get yourself a great CTO. The second is not being afraid to ask for what you want. I mean, I was lucky enough to be introduced to Shaloo through someone who knew someone who knew someone who knew someone. And she is a busy person I've never met. I thought I traveled a lot. No, she is the busiest person I've ever met. And the first time I emailed her, nothing. I reached out on LinkedIn, somebody, probably her social media people, connected. Then I go back to, email, nothing. Then somehow I got her on the phone and she was excited, and I could see that, they're maybe she'll accept me, our firm into Microsoft for Startups, but then nothing. Right before I ended that call, I said, "Oh, Shaloo, just in case, can I have your cell phone number, just in case it was something urgent?" Thank God. Okay, so texted her once, nothing. Texted her again, nothing. Called her once in the middle of a meeting. I thought she was going to kill me. Never do that again. But the point is, I finally figured out the best way to communicate with her, how to do that. And I stayed positive the whole time. I never took it as a rejection. I just kept at it and tried to be as charming as possible and hope that why? Because I knew we had something. It's not that I was trying to pull the wool over her eyes. I was trying to get to a busy person and make her listen. So don't be afraid to ask for what you want. I literally said to her, "Listen, you say you're excited. I want to be in Microsoft for Startups." She said, "Okay, I will take care of it." I said, "And I want the highest level in there to get the most out of it." And she said, "I'll think about it." And then when she had reason to believe, in the back of her mind, she knew I had made the ask. There are so many women that just don't make the ask. So that's the second. And the last I will say is, surround yourself with people who are on your team. The naysayers can go home. They don't need to talk to you. You don't need to talk to them. And honestly, I don't care if it's your parents, your kids, your friends, who are supposedly your friends, your colleagues. They have their own reasons for saying no. Fear and their risk profile is different. Or maybe they don't believe, or maybe they're jealous. So anyone who has to say no, you don't need to be around them. That's my third piece of advice.
I love that. Every bit of it, Denise. And you just exposed me there with my email. That's fine. But I just want to say, I love that. That is what I loved about Denise. And, it was, I would see her emails come through, and I was always thinking, hey, I need to get on a call with her to understand her business model better, because obviously our bar is really high when we're accepting startups into the program. And I got on a call with her, and I remember she kept pinging me, and I was like, okay, let's talk. And I still remember I was in LA traveling, and I said, okay, let's just do it. Let's do. And she was like, I really want to stay in touch. And I said, okay, here's my cell. You're part of the program. Denise, yes, you're part of the program, but I really want you to stay focused, because we can do some really big things here, not just with access to technology, but access to customers as well. That's part of the offering that we have. And I'm going to quickly switch gears to that. And I'm going to ask you, Denise, why Microsoft? Not because I didn't respond to your email. There has to be a bigger reason than that.
I'm a firm believer in watching for patterns. And it wasn't just you, Shaloo, as amazing as you are. It was the whole pattern that I was seeing. So I reached out to a senior female executive on LinkedIn. She connected immediately. She got on the phone with me. I reached out to M12, and they actually listened to me and guided me, even though we were not eligible, and we still aren't. For M12 financing. M12 is the venture arm of Microsoft, for those of you who don't know. I reached out to the chief diversity officer of Microsoft, and she took my call. She saw my demo. And I have to say, it was a real competition. But do we use Azure or do we use AWS? I won't lie. I mean, our initial developers were like, AWS is so much easier to use. Come on. And I was like, you know what? Sorry, Amazon. The Amazon doors were not opening. I don't know why. It could be corporate culture. It could be anything. But there is something about the Microsoft culture. Let's not forget Linda Gates. I mean, there's a heart behind Microsoft for women specifically. That's really the main thing.
Yeah, I love to hear that. There's a heart in Microsoft behind women. I love that. In fact, I know one of my colleagues, Ruth Yakubu, based out of New York City, is online, and she and I are huge fans and huge believers of female founders. So thank you. Thank you for saying that. We accept that and honor that humbly. I'm going to switch the conversation into money conversation. So, you joined Microsoft for Startups. I mean, let's accept it. It's a competitive landscape. There are a lot of players in the market. We know that. As a team, we know that. As a company, we know that. We acknowledge it. We want to show up as the best in the market, right? That's what we want to do. And our culture inherently teaches us to do that. You talked about culture. That's who we are. That's how we grow up within this company. So you got in the program. Of course, you got access to Azure. You just mentioned about Azure. Just share with the audience. By the way, this is not a scripted question, so I'm just throwing it, Denise, your way. Share with the audience, like, how has your experience been, especially on getting you access to customers? Because at the end of the day, Denise, no matter if you're a male or a female founder, it doesn't matter. The holy grail for any entrepreneur is access to customers. Right. And you can have the best technology, you can have free credits, you can rock and roll with GitHub and Microsoft Power Platform, but at the end of the day, it is about customer acquisition. Just share with us how your journey has been. And you're more than welcome to share where we can do better as a company, as a team. I would love to hear that as well.
Okay, well, at the moment I have no complaints. I will be sure to let you know, but not at the moment. And if I assume that I'm not going to say anything proprietary, but just cut me off in the middle of sentence if so. But Microsoft has what's called a co-sell program, and if you are good enough, if you do what needs to be done, then you can be in their co-sell program. When I say do what needs to be done, I mean they review your architecture. I feel so confident out there in the market on the basis of their scrutiny alone. And I talk to clients about that. I'll say, look, we're in Microsoft co-sell, okay? They do not let just anyone into this program, and I tell them what we've been through. But the support that we're getting from engineering, I mean, we had a problem with our software communicating with Azure, and we had the top level, and when we weren't getting quick responses, I texted Shaloo and I said, get me tier, whatever the tier was that we needed, Shaloo got it for me. But in addition to that, we have a success manager who is there for us. So, and we have access to the Microsoft Partner Network, the MPN portal, which means that, am I going too far, Shaloo? Should I stop?
No, keep going. Keep going.
That basically, if let's say we're in enterprise somewhere and it seems to have stalled, we register our opportunity, we ask for help, we get salespeople who will help. Let's say we have a press release, that's critical. We go into the portal, we get someone to help with our press release. I mean, this is when I say kid in a candy shop, or like died and gone to heaven, or use the terms nirvana. It's not to be pie in this. It is nirvana. I mean, for those of you who have struggled for everything you have, and I have, I feel like somebody came down with some sort of magic wand, or there's a higher power that's kind of looking down, because that's how good it is.
Great. So, Denise, I want to just zero in on the customer aspect of the conversation. In my previous role, prior to joining Microsoft, I ran the commercialization practice, which is connecting startups into enterprise. And I have always seen this level of anxiety or impatience in founders to say, when can you get me a customer? And when can you get me in front of General Motors? And when can you get me in front of these big customers? And when can I close my first POC, which will eventually lead into closing the deal?
Right.
What do you think? Do you think there is room for patience, or do you think customer access can speed really well? What's your perspective on it as a founder? I'd love to hear it.
Patience has never been my strong suit. If my team is on this call, they are laughing hysterically on mute right now. And I spoke to my lead investor about this. I said, is there a time when I'm going to calm down? Because I just don't feel calm about anything. There's always something to be not calm about. And he said, Denise, it's a marathon, not a sprint. But everything feels like a sprint. And I think it's very difficult when you're in the middle of it to decide, what is the stuff that is really important and what isn't. But back to, the actual customer thing, the proof of concept and what have you, kind of just a little bit of an adjacent point. I mean, in terms of our technology, we pitched this to enterprise, not for investment, but to enterprise before it was born. And we said, look, this is the concept we have. It's been too long that inclusion has not been a must-have, has not been embedded, has not been sustainable. We have this concept. Here's our science. We have a white paper on it. Here's where we want to go. And we've lucked out on a woman who I don't know if I have permission. I'll just say MJ, if you're out there, you know who you are. African-American, female, came up through the business, so very strategic, fearless in an institution, a financial institution, the 5th largest bank in the nation, that is relatively conservative, and just said, build it, and basically gave us $250,000 to build it. Not an investment, did not give away any equity, because she believed in this. So enterprise is important. Enterprise is critically important, and customer success is critically important. And working towards, like, everything you do initially should be around an ROI study and a proof of concept, and like from the get-go. Don't expect to go any further if you can't get that done.
Yeah, and I do know, having worked with many founders, it's getting a POC is not that simple. That goes back to our earlier conversation, that it's not about funding. Like, you can get Series A, Class A in Silicon Valley. You can be one of the top funded startups, but if you don't have your game A in access to customers, it's pretty much, you better have a strategy in place.
Yeah.
I want to switch the conversation to vulnerability. Vulnerability is a human emotion.
Yep.
It does not, distinguish between a male or a female, founders, non-founders. Let's just switch there. You've obviously gone through a lot of highs and lows. All of us go through highs and lows, right? What's been your best day?
Oh my gosh.
So proud of. And I would love for you to connect that into something that you're doing today. Just talk to us about that.
Okay, I think, let's definitely talk about best day versus first before worst day, if we're going to talk about worst day. But so best day has got to be, I'm going to tell you 2, actually, or maybe 3. Okay, just super quick. The first business that I built, that I was telling you about when I was in the middle of a divorce, I really literally got up one day and said, Denise, there's a fine line between never say die and doing the right thing by your kids, by your soon-to-be ex-husband, just in general. You may have to give up this dream. And one day, well into it, and well into almost all the savings that I had, I woke up suddenly and said, oh, wow, this is the day. And I was sad, but I knew it had to happen. But I vowed that I was not going to close the business until I got a hold of I had basically sent out an unsolicited proposal to the Pentagon, because Obama had announced that he wanted to do cross-cultural training for the 4 branches of the military. And that was enough for me to just send a proposal to Pentagon, Washington, D.C., basically, Office of Culture, which I didn't even know if it existed. And I spent that entire day, on the day that I said I was going to close my business, calling them. And I got, secretary after secretary, female voice after female voice. And at about 4 p.m. East Coast time, I got the last female voice, and I was droning on. I sent an unsolicited proposal. I know it's probably in the trash. You probably don't even know what I'm talking about, but, and she interrupted me and said, oh no, I'm the deputy director of culture for the Pentagon. I have your proposal. It's on my boss's desk. When can you come to Washington? Okay, that was a good day, because that was the first win, and I leveraged that for every client after that, and leveraged those successes on to the next. The second, of course, is the day that we sold that business to Ernst & Young. And, you know, I became a direct admit partner at Ernst & Young. And then I felt like I was on a spaceship, you know, leading 40 PhDs in an innovation lab in India, you know, to scale our IP. Was over the top. And of course, you know, what I just mentioned about just prior about getting the money from enterprise to build. And then lastly, our lead investor came in literally, I think we closed. I think the wire hit maybe 2 days before San Diego was sequestered. We're in San Diego. I mean, this stuff only happens in the movies. It happens to us.
That's awesome. Congratulations on closing a round. That also, the timing is perfect, right before COVID, right? So congratulations on that. I know we have just a few minutes here. I'm going to wrap it up with one final question. So life is not just about happy times, right? It's also about not so happy times. Share with us quickly, in a quick snapshot, one of the days that you just was very close to giving up.
Well, in our pilot study, so, you know, I made a big deal about proof of concept, POC. We had worked so long with this one enterprise client, very, very, very early on, and we were getting stellar results. And they had, I don't want to say they had promised, but they had all but promised that we would go public with those results. And they decided to stay stealth. They decided that that it would be better not to arm their competitors with knowing the successes that they were having, and that was not great. I will say that I was initially, I don't want to say that the day that things started going south with COVID-19 was my worst day, but it was bad. I mean, here we were. You know, we had this great technology, we had investment. I finally, for the first time in my life, could do things right instead of bootstrapping every step of the way. And I had a cancellation for a keynote on the East Coast, one of the biggest auto manufacturers in the country, cancellation with one of the biggest biotech pharma in the country that were like this close to closing. And I just thought, really, you're going to give this to me and then take it away, like almost like simultaneously? But here's what happened instead. We were already thinking about producing an app out of our platform that was relative to leading remote teams. What do you think we did? We pivoted like that in our product line, took that sprint, moved it to the beginning of our product pipeline, and produced an app called the Remote Teams Virtual Coach to help leaders to return, you know, to engage in behaviors that would help industry to return to new levels of former levels of prosperity. So there, I know I'm kind of an upbeat person, but there's always a silver lining, right? Every failure has to be a success, either because you learned something very important or because you tested your entrepreneur. If you're really an entrepreneur, you'll be able to figure out what the opportunity is in every failure or challenge.
Yeah. And, you know, I love what you said here in terms of failure. One of the things that I firmly believe in is failure is path to success. Like what taste would success have if it was so easy? I mean, there has to be challenge. It has to push you. It has to help you grow, right? And at the same time, it also needs to help you just stay grounded, which is super important. Yeah. I appreciate your candor and vulnerability here, Denise. It's not easy to just stand up there and speak, publicly about one's personal journey. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I know we are on time here, but before I give it to Chaitra, Denise, from I remember the first conversation I had with you was different, but the conversation that I had with you when you had just onboarded as part of Microsoft for Startups program, I remember having that conversation with you, and I said, Denise, congrats, you're in. And you said, thank you. And I said, Denise, I have one ask. And you said, what? I said, you got to rock this. You have an amazing opportunity. You have a phenomenal technology partner. you will, if you stay focused, you will get access to customers. You will get the best we have to offer. But I want you to promise me that you will stay focused and you're going to rock this. I could not be more proud of you. I mean, today, like 9 or 10 months later, you have changed the trajectory of your company. And, whether I'm in Microsoft or not, I will always, always be proud of you. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Keep on is what I would say. Like, keep pushing. And, this is just the beginning for you. Thank you for just taking the time. And I want to thank the audience as well I see some beautiful comments coming in. Thank you, guys. That means you're listening, which is a good sign. I'm going to Chaitra. I'm going to give it over to her. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Shaloo, for the opportunity.
Oh my God, that was a mind-blowing conversation. So thank you. So some of the words that I learned was be humble, be persistent, pivot, and as an entrepreneur, pivot, 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 and drive the adaptability. And I think that is a lesson for every one of us, and COVID is going to make that possible. Now, but before we get there, first, let's give a big, big round of applause for Show Me With the Emotion how much you love their conversation. Come on, do that one. Fantastic. So what I want to do is we are going to move into the social lounge experience, but I want to give you guys a frame around how to think about the social lounge. So Riza is going to bring the screen up. You heard about the startup program. You heard about the Women in Cloud program. You'll say, what does that all this mean? Well, a couple of things for you to think about. Women in Cloud program, the Accelerator, which is a co-sell and co-market solution, is really to get you ready so you can reach like Denise's state. When you go in there, you're ready to go and meet with all the enterprise, because there's a set of things that has to be ready for you to be successful in the enterprise market. So when you pick up the call and call Shaloo and say, I am ready, what he will do is not ask you 100 questions. She'll say, oh, you're coming from the Women in Cloud Accelerator. I know you're ready. Let me take you to the next level. So that's the intention. So now going to the social lounge experience. Are you guys excited? Say yes or no. Show me with emotion. Excellent. So one question before we go into what the rules of engagement is. What did you learn from their conversation? Go ahead and type. So when we go into the networking, it's a 15 minutes to 18 minutes. And I want all of you, because it's a new experience, and we are really thankful for AirMeet for providing this beautiful experience for us to connect. When you go in, grab a seat. You don't have to pull. As soon as the seat is available, just go grab a seat. Denise and Shaloo and we will be in the social lounge engaging with you too. We will be at the table. Here, experience and wisdom is valuable. Share it with each other, because that's how we want to create that intimate conversation. Be brave, ask tough questions, and also dumb questions are fine, because I think we need to give liberty. Just be who you are. Bring your generosity. Is best to give and receive. So have that, experience where if you find that you can add value, please go ahead and do it. Don't be a dominator in the conversation. Let everyone have a turn to speak. You want everybody to have really a deep conversation, so you create a friendship. Be civil. Don't have digital food fights. There's possibility when you get excited. Don't have that. Even if you cannot agree with somebody, it's okay. Just have a great. Learn, laugh, and leave it all on the table. Keep it intimate and conversational, and finally be yourself. You're the only one we have. After all, just be you. With that, we are going into the social lounge. And once we do, we'll give 18 minutes for you to go connect. You can hop from one table to another. If you feel like you finished a conversation, go to the next table. I would ask you to take a challenge, meet at least 5 people today, because that will be your 5 connections that you have made. And the connection that you will know is you have connected with them on LinkedIn after having a conversation. Sounds good? Everybody feels like they got the right rules of engagement? Okay, And I want all of you to be back into the Q&A session. Just don't exit out of the conversation saying, I met 5 people, I am done. No, come back, have a deep conversation with the speakers because they have made time for you and we want to really listen to what you have learned from today's conversation. Sounds good? Again, let's go to the social lounge area. Give like 10 seconds and we will be moved into the social lounge. Hello, welcome back, everyone. And Shaloo, Denise, thank you. You're back with me here, excited. So first question for everyone in the audience, how was the networking? I know there were some issues with connecting, but how was the networking? Did you feel something different this time? Yes? Okay. I love the hearts. Yes, I love the hearts. I love the claps. Yes, please give a big round of applause to both of them being in the social lounge with you. We are experimenting with a new technology to really bring the in-person experience to look in, even in the digital space, it feels like that. So yes, Julia, we will do more networking. Absolutely. It's coming. We are just experimenting. I have Manoj Singh, who is the CEO of AirMeet here. So he's actually amazed of how women actually lead online events. So, and he's really helping us really take our feedback and incorporate in his technology to make sure that the experience for these events are very, very intimate, conversational, and there's a less of burnout. Okay, now we will head into the audience Q&A. First is, do you guys have any questions for Denise and Shaloo? So till people are typing, Denise, you said something that really stuck in my mind was don't be afraid to ask. And I do the same thing when we are in the Women in Cloud Accelerator is don't be afraid to ask, don't diminish your value. Share a story around that you said is like, when I did it, it made it happen. Because I know with Shaloo, when I have to reach out to her, I'm like always, Shaloo, let's talk now. And she'll pick up the phone. Like, okay, what do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
So, your story.
I think that's a great question. And I have to say, I was raised to either have all the answers or pretend I had all the answers. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that serves you pretty well up to a certain point. Mm-hmm. But at a certain point, when you don't have all the answers, if it impedes you from moving ahead, that's a big problem. And being able to say, and I'll pretend that I'm asking you, Chatra. I have a phenomenal technology, and I have to tell you that I don't feel like the doors are opening the way they should. I want the opportunity to speak with you about it and get your feedback and find out from you either whether you think it's phenomenal too, or if not, how I can be better. But if you love this technology, I would ask you to open whatever door you can. We need more revenue, or we need a proof of concept, and anything that you can do to help us would be very much appreciated. Now, if you notice, I did not give away my power when I did that. I didn't say, Chatra, I don't know. I mean, I'm so scared. We don't seem to be having the track. I mean, I wasn't whining. I wasn't diminishing myself. I wasn't flustered. I was telling her in a very powerful way that we have something amazing and we need help. That does not diminish our power, either as an entrepreneur or as a woman. And if we're not willing to do that, you cannot do everything on your own. It's just an impossibility.
No, I totally agree with you, Denise, is having a clear ask at the table, because everyone needs help and everyone can give help, right? So kind of doing a clear ask, making it less intensive for the other person, everyone will step in. And that's what we have done with the Women in Cloud community is everyone is extremely generous. I call it as a generosity network to help. So there was a couple of questions that came in. What is the overlap between the Accelerator and the startup group? Ellen, there's two scenarios that happens when you have an idea and you're trying to make an idea really sticky in the consumer market or an enterprise market. You go through the startup program, which is the Microsoft Startup, has all the benefits that you need to take your idea to become a successful implementation of that solution. Then you have the Women in Cloud Accelerator is designed for, you have an idea, you have a customer in the enterprise market and you want to scale, or you have a solution in the consumer market and you want to pivot for an enterprise market, and you want to have the Microsoft channel, which is another community that you want to be part of. So what we do is beautifully allow any new ideas come in, we send them to the startup group, so it's easier to get the benefit. If people are in the startup group and they need access to the channel and the ecosystem, they come into the accelerator. In the accelerator, you need to have a minimum of 1 year of experience running your tech company, and also an experience to win your first customer. Once you have those 2 criteria met, it becomes easier for us to educate you to get you ready for an enterprise market. Sounds good? So Shaloo, the question is for you. What do you look for in an entrepreneur that makes it click for you?
Wow, that's a great question. So look, there are 3 things that I look for, and I'm pretty vocal about it. First, of course, is the product viability, right? So it's not like, hey, I have a cool product and I'm really, because from an entrepreneur's perspective, every product or solution is their baby, and it's always good for them, right? But from my perspective, I typically evaluate what is the total addressable market size for that solution. Is there a market for it? Is there something, is there enough opportunity in the next 1 to 3 years and not just today? That's number 1. Number 2 is I always evaluate founder's team or just the team itself. And it's very important for me because, as you saw with Denise, we are literally, we are not like a corporate and a startup talking. We're talking like regular folks that, hey, Denise, you got to do this. If you want to win this game, this is what you got to do. And so it's very important to understand the dynamics of the team. If there's someone, like I've come across teams where the CTO is telling me, hey, send me an email, but don't copy the CEO. And I'm like, no. That speaks a lot about the culture of the team. So it's very important for me to understand that. And then third is, which is last but not the least, is how can I help you? Like when I look at a solution, yes, I'm looking at the team and I'm looking at the product. The third box that I look at is, I have an opportunity to help this founder. What can I do for you? Technology, maybe some mentoring, maybe some guidance, access to customers. Like, what is it? What is that gap that I can fill for you? And so, it's all I can say is it's just not about the product. You can have a rock star product, which you're super proud of, but there are a lot of dynamics that come into play.
Thank you, Shaloo. Great insight on that. Just watch for your LinkedIn is going to explode today. I know that one. Everyone is going to be connecting with you. Any other questions you have in the chat? I did not see anything. Please feel free to ask them. We are here. We are going to hang out with you and ask. So that's the question. So there's a couple of other questions that came in. So Shaloo, I have invented a unique, powerful authentication and MFA technologies. How do I reach out to big tech and banks to license them and also offer my crafted office solution?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So again, obviously, I can explain the process to you right now. Is if you do decide to work with Microsoft, I would encourage you to just go to startups.microsoft.com. Feel free to reach out to me at LinkedIn. More than happy to get on a call with you, chat with you. But just getting into a customer site is not a simple process, right? Of course, we need to have a conversation, what your solution is, how we can work together. But the starting point is just understanding what your need is and how can we map that to the offering that we have. So again, access to customers is what we have. That's the conversation here. But to get there, it's a journey and it's not going to happen overnight.
Got it. So, Shaloo, this question is for both you and Denise, and it's around really focusing on the pivoting, right? So, Denise, you talked about pivoting is taking your solution and pivoting for work from home scenario. So, talk about what is Microsoft and your startup team doing, Shaloo, to helping companies to think about pivoting the way you're guiding Denise. And Denise, when you did your pivoting, what was kind of your insights and kind of your directional strategies you had to take to make that possible with your entire team? So I'll start with Denise, and then Shaloo, you can finish the conversation. Okay.
Yeah. So the first pivot obviously was to move that one product up in the product line, right? To be agile with your sprints and get, if you already have a product that becomes more relevant, for example, because of the economic challenge or the societal challenge or whatever it is that's impeding you. That would be the first. The second is logical. We just started focusing on the essential sectors. Energy, communications, all the essential, sectors that stayed open, but also the ones that didn't do badly from an economic perspective. Like I finally realized after I just went online and bought like my lipstick and my makeup and everything, okay, that's not an essential sector, but it is still thriving. So that was the second piece of it. The third was saying, you know what? Okay, this is an opportunity to just go back and regroup, start examining the product, investing in innovation, investing in the product itself, investing in the team. And I also don't want to, although this is kind of ancillary to your question, let's not lose sight of the fact that our teams are also experiencing all this, right? They're some of them are scared or anxious or what have you, and we have to remain the inspiration. We can't really allow ourselves, at least team facing, to be down. We have to be talking about the opportunity that is out there ahead of us.
Yeah. Just to add to Denise, Chaitra, I would say that pivoting is something that I feel is extremely personal to an entrepreneur, right? I mean, I almost look at it as when a founder starts the company, it's almost like building a new home or moving into a new home. And when you move into a new home, you get new things. Like, for example, if you're building your home, you're getting a new couch and you're getting a new, bed, and you're building your kitchen. And so then I show up and I say, hey, Denise, give me the keys to your house. And, here we go. It's an unfair proposition, right? So when it comes to pivoting, and when founders come to me and they say, hey, we are evaluating, like we are in AI, but deep tech is really picking up. What's your perspective on it? I mean, the number one question that I ask them is how will it impact your bottom line? If you have, let's say, 10x revenue today, I'm just throwing a number there. Is it going to take you from 10 to 20, 10 to 15, 10 to 12, or just have you stick at 10? And just sort of have a conversation with them, because I don't think I'm in a position to force them to pivot. But I can definitely, having the industry experience and, of course, the technology background, encourage them to probe them to think in that direction and then let them make the decision, because ultimately it's their startup.
Absolutely. And Shaloo, Denise, and to the entire community, right? When the COVID hit, Women in Cloud actually used to do a lot of in-person experience because the connection was very important, especially when you're doing the enterprise ecosystem and you're reaching that one. And doing it in a virtual environment was not something conducive pre-COVID. But when the COVID hit, the entire programming we had to shift to digital. It was not easy. It was hard. Like as a team, it was hard. So we put in, we already had started with a digital community. So that really grew very fast. So now getting to 6,000 members easily, it's now very easy for us at any time of the day. The entire Accelerator, which was something which used to be done in person, we had to pivot to digital. Actually, the digital has been much better than the in-person because we didn't have problem with people getting access into the building, trying to find them to get to the right room. This one was very easy, and we had more time to have the deep conversation. And even the pitch session, we thought we won't be able to do it with Zoom, but with AirMeet, we were even able to do very much a real real pitch conversation. So I think it's more about thinking through your scenario and saying, if you pivot to digital, how do you get your talent ready to really harness that opportunity, and can you get going there? So I would say is, there are a lot of great stories, even in our community. I would say they have done a fantastic job. And Denise, like with your virtual app that you were able to do was phenomenal. So I think we have, there was one more question, Shaloo, for you is, this is Priyanka. She is curious to know, what kind of companies are you looking for in your Microsoft for startup, especially the stage of companies, industry, solo entrepreneurs? What are you really looking for to get them into the program?
Yeah, no, Priyanka, that's a great question. So we typically go for B2B tech solutions. So because Microsoft is an enterprise company, and the beauty of our value proposition is that we provide access to startups to our enterprise customers. And so we are typically looking for B2B startups anywhere from seed to Series C. Very wide playground, less than $25 million in revenue, about less than 7 years in existence. So if you're a startup that's started in 2000, most probably is not going to make the cut, but in the last 7 years, you will. And then, minimum viable product. Like I was actually giving a keynote yesterday in one of the universities, and I got this question that, hey, I have this amazing edtech solution, and I want to demo that to you. And I said, sure. And then they pull up a bunch of spreadsheets. And I'm like, that's not what it is. I mean, personally, I want to see the product, feel the product. It may not be perfect, please. I mean, that's one thing that I absolutely make clear. We are not looking for perfection. We understand that for an entrepreneur, it's a journey, but at least a minimum viable product that has the chops to sustain the demand of this entire journey, which ultimately will take you to an enterprise customer, right? So you need that strength in the product. And of course, founders like Denise and so many millions of founders out there who have the grit to just bear that pressure. So I hope I answered your question, Priyanka.
Cool. Thanks, Shaloo. This one is for both of you. And I also have, I would say, an idea that I would love to share. The advice is the question is, what's your advice on how to move from MVP to first customer? This is my point of view. When you're building a solution, and if you don't know who your first customer is, stop doing the solution.
Yeah.
Because it'll be very hard for you to convince somebody to buy what you think is a good idea. But if you have a potential customer that you're ideating and say, hey, it'll be really nice if I had something, can you build something for me? Then you have your first customer. That's my point of view. Shaloo, Denise, what do you guys think about that?
Denise, you want to go first?
Sure. I couldn't agree more. I mean, for one, you can use that first customer as a partner in terms of iteration. Like with our app, we were looking to find out the five areas that enterprise would most where inclusion could most likely be embedded on a team. We didn't do that in a vacuum based on my opinion, let's say at Ernst & Young, my experience. We did that with their whole cross-functional team. And so we knew that we had a viable construct. We pass ideas by them. We pass the look and feel, the colors, everything by them. And so it's a winning way to move ahead, even if that client doesn't end up being a paying enterprise client. To not involve enterprise in some way, shape, or form is a huge mistake. But I agree with what you say. If you don't know who your first customer is, that is a problem.
Yeah, and I would second that. I would also say that be open to feedback, like keep your ego aside. And if someone just pokes holes, I personally love that. I mean, every time I pull together a business strategy, I take it to, my inner circle, trusted friends and colleagues, and I say, poke holes on it. And I think it's very important to have that humility to hear that big no. Because to Chaitra's point, if you don't know who your customer is, like maybe one among these conversations will lead you to your correct customer. And so it's very important to be humble, to keep the ego aside and be open to change and just say, yeah, tell me, how can I do better?
Yep. Please don't take your retirement fund and build an MVP and expect a customer to come. don't do that. That would be my recommendation. So here is a question by Nadine. She is asking we pivoted our RFID item tracking technology to also track processes such as sanitization. Our beachhead marketing and is a private elderly facility. What is the best way to get them to test and then buy the solution? So Nadine, I will give you my suggestion, and then we'll have Shaloo and Denise talk about it. The thing is that if you know your customer, you should already start looking at who they are and who is the decision maker in that private elder care facility, and go and have a conversation. Have a 5-minute conversation, then a 10-minute, and then an hour. But make sure that you are in front of them talking about it. And that way they know that you have a solution. The other option is, if you're in the Microsoft ecosystem, please let the Microsoft team know that you have a solution and you have pivoted your technology to address it, because the entire Microsoft ecosystem is curating the COVID-19 technology solutions that every company can use. So you should be part of that particular experience. So with that, Shaloo, what do you think? That was
I completely agree. I completely agree. I mean, at a high level, I would say be in touch with reality, right? So of course, if you're part of Microsoft for Startups program or part of any other program within Microsoft, or anyone for that matter, why just Microsoft? Like any other vendor or cloud provider you're working with, talk to them, be open about it, and then look for help. Like back to Chaitra, like have conversations and leverage the ecosystem around. Denise?
Yeah, I had an interesting experience that I'll just share, because I'm not sure if this person is saying that, that this enterprise or this client is reluctant to test. I have learned that nobody ever gets fired for a consulting gig that has gone wrong, but people get fired all the time for launching technology that goes wrong. And so I have, often said, to enterprise, listen, we have world-class methodology on diversity and inclusion that we'd like to share with you. We have, a 90-minute webinar. We have an inclusion baseline and action plan. And we also have this app that can be used to scale and sustain the work that, we do with you. We can give that to you, for you to just have, for your people to have in their pocket on a voluntary basis. The only thing we ask is, to complete a survey, maybe if you have time to do a little focus group or something like that. So, I mean, I think the thing to remember is that technology can go wrong, right? It can have bugs, it can have glitches, it can have all sorts of problems. And enterprise is vulnerable. And they also, now they have to follow GDPR, California laws, and on and on. And the compliance that we have gone through, thank God in a way that we had a financial client at first, because otherwise, who knows? It was painful to go through all the compliance, but they're worried. You have to give them a way to test that is not threatening to them.
Perfect. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Shaloo. We are at the hour, and I want the entire community to give a big round of applause for Shaloo and Denise. Okay, show me with the emotion how much you love them, because that is the key. So I want to do is a community pulse check on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being awesome. How would you rate the experience today? And if we didn't get 10, tell us what we could have done better so we can get 10 out of 10. Okay, so it's very important for us. So thank you for doing that. Let's get to the next one. There are a few things I would love to make sure you have access to. The Microsoft, Women in Cloud Accelerator cohort number 4 is opened, and we want to make sure if you are interested to build your enterprise-ready solution and have a go-to-market with Microsoft and be co-sell ready, we will definitely make sure that you can apply there and we get you through the curation process. We also have the Microsoft for Startup program. This is a unique program designed to accelerate the growth of startups with the free access to technology and business support, and also bring business ideas to life. If you are in that stage and you have your first customer, you think you should be applying for the Microsoft Startup. And then if you are ready to build everything on Azure, which we love Azure, so I would say get your technology built on Azure. It's a very flexible cloud computing with hundreds plus services to help you build and scale your next idea to global audience. So if you're ready to go and switch to Azure, please take a moment, be part of the startup community and also part of the Women in Cloud. Also, please take survey and share your feedback, because your feedback allows us to remove any of the blind spots that we have to create is a very intimate community who's really focused on helping women entrepreneurs to be successful in today's market. They have great ideas and you have access to customers or investors, so make that happen. And again, thank you for staying with us for an hour and a half. Hopefully the breakfast was really valuable. And again, Shaloo, Denise, thank you. Thank you for really enlightening all of us today. And what a great conversation we had. So thank you so much. Looking forward to connecting with you. And we will be in the social lounge if you want to hang out and chat with us.
Thank you, guys. Stay safe and stay healthy, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.